Hello and welcome to another morning update live on NTN. My name is Jessie Leonce and today is the first day of June. It's a Tuesday. We hope you've been productive so far for the week, achieving your goals and whatnot, but more importantly, adhering to the protocols. We still have the state of emergency that is active until the 16th of October, and we have the curfew, resultant curfew, 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., and we hope everyone is adhering. We did hear quite some disappointing news from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force that there were quite a few persons not adhering, and we do hope that we see a turn in our fortunes in that respect, especially since the government of St. Lucia has lessened on the COVID-19 restrictions, particularly for individuals who are getting vaccinated, who are fully vaccinated. Some concession, and I would imagine some incentive for those who've not yet made up their minds. We're going to go over later on in the program, certainly before it ends, some of these protocols and let you know how you can go about your day if you are fully vaccinated. But in the meantime, I just want to let you know, in addition to the updates for COVID-19 from the Information Command Center, which we're coming to you live from, we have Dr. Nurse from the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and he is here this morning to speak to us about the programs of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. You would know by now through the information sessions hosted by Mrs. Nathalie Jolie-Fannis, quite extensive work happening to refine the operations of the institution, to bring education, a new and refined education to the people of St. Lucia. And now we're looking at education without borders. We're seeing that we're able to now market ourselves as an education destination, sort of, to have not only persons come, but also because of the virtual space and the virtual way of things now, able to market in the Caribbean and the wider world. So we'll be having Dr. Nurse speak to us in just a moment about that. In the meantime, we have 14 new cases of COVID-19 to report in St. Lucia. And this was these newly diagnosed individuals were seen at various community respiratory clinics. Nothing out of the ordinary. This was out of a batch of 118 tests that were conducted between 27th May to 29th May. And we also have the recovery of 3 individuals, and this brings the total number of active cases to 188. Presently, one of the individuals, they're not doing too well. They're requiring critical care at the respiratory hospital. The new cases bring the total number of cases that have been registered since March of last year to 5,067. As I mentioned later, we broke through the 5,000 mark. We do hope that you are doing everything you can to protect yourself and your family from exposure to COVID-19. While we've made significant strides in terms of the vaccination campaign, we are still very much a vulnerable population, and please, it is important we continue to harp it, but we must emphasize that it is important to adhere to the protocols and basic infection prevention recommendations. The Ministry of Health reports, most regrettably, 2 COVID-19 related deaths, bringing the total number of deaths in country to date to 79. Death number 78 is a 62-year-old male from Castries, and he did have underlying medical illnesses. And death number 79 is a 69-year-old female from the Ancillary District. She also did have underlying medical illnesses. The Ministry of Health and also us here at the GIS, we commiserate with the loved ones of these 2 individuals. And we did hear from the head of NCD, Senior Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, just yesterday, reinforcing the point in terms of non-communicable diseases that, you know, St. Lucia is particularly at risk because we do have high rates of NCDs here on island, and we need not get into the details. We are aware, and, you know, reinforcing the point even more as to why we need to take all precaution against COVID-19. What we're going to do now is take our first break for the morning. When we come back, we get into a quick chat with a Dr. Nurse from the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. He is the principal, and he will be speaking to us about some of the new bachelor degree programs, as well as other initiatives to enhance the institution's offering on island. Stay with us.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated. We know what to do. Get vaccinated. COVID-19 we won't lose to you. Oh no. Take 2 doses. Take our life back. Time for a brand new day. Take 2 doses. Take our life back. To live and work and play. Take 2 doses, take our life back. The health experts we trust. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Let's take our life back with the safe and effective AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The mobile vaccination drive is coming to you. Visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Bureau of Health Education Facebook pages for more information. Let's take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow. For a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies. When her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul. And her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. For her hopes and dreams still stand, shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is Saint Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Thank you so much for staying with us. This is the morning update. We're live on NTN for today, the first day of June 2021. It's a Tuesday. We hope you're keeping safe out there. Thank you for making us your morning station. If you're about your chores for the day, if you're still studying at home, if you're at university, your secondary school, you're on rotation at home today, we do hope you're keeping safe, adhering to the protocols and whatnot. For those of you joining us in the diaspora, thank you so much for tuning in, keeping abreast as to what's happening in your island home. Well, today we have in studio Dr. Nurse, Principal of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and he is here to speak to us about some of the work that the college has been doing to refine its offering to not only residents here in St. Lucia, but potential prospects all across the globe. Special good morning to you, Dr. Nurse. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Wonderful. Before we get into the actual work of this Arthur Lewis Community College, we know that you have had quite an experience in terms of the pandemic, being in your island home, Trinidad and Tobago, and coming to St. Lucia during this very tumultuous time, really. How has that experience been so far, coming back to St. Lucia?
It's been good. I actually got the opportunity to get into the CPL bubble. So when the cricketers were leaving Trinidad and coming to St. Lucia, and then they were going to Barbados and the UK, I was able to hitch a ride with them. But it meant I had to do 2 PCR tests, quarantine there in Trinidad before coming to St. Lucia. And then when I got here, I had to quarantine again. So I've done several bouts of quarantine, PCR tests. I'm a specialist at this now.
And certainly, tell us about your vaccination experience. We know certainly your students, your staff, faculty are looking to you in that respect.
Well, my first vaccination occurred after my last visit to NTN.
Okay.
So I need to thank NTN for that. and then we were able to get some vaccinations for the second rounds through our neighbor HTS, which is potentially one of your rivals, I would presume.
Not at all.
Not at all. Yeah, it's been seamless. I think St. Lucia has done very well in terms of its vaccination and rollout. I can't say the same for my country. They were slow off the mark, but they're catching up pretty quickly. They have acquired vaccinations from China, the Sinopharm. They have AstraZeneca as well, and they've been tapping into their COVAX facility allotment. So they're catching up quickly. But they are faced with a fourth wave currently, and the Brazilian variant has been spreading as well. So they have a bit of a challenge to deal with.
I would imagine your family keeping safe.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, we are grateful to have you here because we're seeing major changes happening at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. I want to start with the bachelor degree programs. The Sir Arthur Lewis Community College is responding favorably to the regional demand for dynamic programs in that regard.
Yes. I mean, it's all part of the shift or the pivot away from the community college model to university model. The college has been operating with the community college model, which is premised on being a feeder to other institutions, so that we offer an associate degree, which is 2 years for the bulk of what we provide, and students matriculate into universities in another jurisdiction. Now, that community college model works well, let's say, in the United States, where in the same city you can have several community colleges as well as several universities, and so the capacity of young people to move on is pretty seamless. It's not terribly expensive, and so on. When you live on an island and your next big university is on another island or on a mainland, and the cost of traveling there, living there, and so on is expensive, it means then that you have accepted that a large share of your population can't move on to complete the tertiary education. So the community college model is something that has served a useful purpose, but it's time, not just in St. Lucia, but throughout the whole OECS, to upgrade out of that framework. Why? If you look at how the global economy is trending, the trajectory of the global economy, the countries that have a higher percentage of their population that are tertiary educated are the ones that are progressing. And the countries that are expending resources on research and development and so on are the ones that are progressing. So you need to have a talented nation to have an innovation nation. And you cannot just progress in the world by waiting on foreigners to come and invest in your country. Or, that by itself is not going to be the trigger for the development process. You have to have some skills that are being generated internally that can impact on the growth of investment, whether it's foreign or local, but also to export your goods and services and your intellectual property abroad as well. So small countries are often challenged in this area, but the way in which the global economy is shifting and the way in which higher education is moving, it is possible for a small place to punch above its weight. And that's what we are doing with the college. We are upgrading very rapidly so that we can go toe-to-toe with whoever, wherever.
However.
Yes, that too.
And so I would imagine, like you indicated, one of the main challenges for us being on an island with a community college as the highest really would be financial. And with the introduction of the bachelor degree programs, that is definitely something that St. Lucians and even St. Lucia, persons beyond St. Lucia, thanks to the pandemic, the changes that have been fast-tracked with the virtual space, are now able to tap into. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, at the college we've had 2 bachelor degrees that came on stream recently, a bachelor's in nursing and a bachelor's in teacher education. What we are doing now is bringing on board 4 additional bachelor's degrees, one in public health, and you can well imagine the demand for that is expanding thanks to COVID. A bachelor's degree in sustainable tourism and hospitality, again, a critical area for St. Lucia and many other small island developing states because tourism is the main driver of the economy. Our third is in business administration and in innovation. So we're adding an additional element to that business administration degree that you would normally get elsewhere. And last but not least, a degree on environmental and sustainability, environmental studies and sustainability with climate change, but also with the opportunities in the green and the blue economy. This becomes a really exciting offering. So in effect, what we have done is not just to offer let's call it your bog standard type of bachelor's degrees. We are making them very contemporary, very relevant for what's happening in the global context. And that's what we'll be doing going forward. So we are hoping that next year we'll have another batch of bachelor's degrees coming out and would expand the opportunities. And you're quite correct. The growth of digital education, many thanks to COVID again, has accelerated our export capabilities. I think we've done really well at the college. When I first arrived, we had one person in e-learning. Now we have 7, if not 8. We have an e-learning academy. We are exporting our services. We are working with countries across the region, even as far as potentially soon Haiti, in terms of helping and training teachers and educators how to utilize the digital education tools. We are also just about to start a project funded through the Caribbean Development Bank on how to train animators and new media specialists to produce content for digital education. Nice. So you could see the college is progressing to this other space where we generate content and become a path breaker rather than a passive recipient of knowledge and capabilities from other jurisdictions.
Pioneering. Speak to us about the outreach into the region right now, the work that is going into that.
Well, recently we did what we're calling a diplomatic academy. It was a diplomatic academy for sustainable development, which we did in conjunction with the Ministry of External Affairs. This was very interesting for us because a lot of our facilitators came from outside of St. Lucia, as far away as Fiji, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, Belgium, London, and the list went on. We ran it over a month, and 3 times a week we would have sessions with specialists. And our participants came from across the world as well, mostly from the Caribbean and mostly from St. Lucia, but we had people from as far away as New Zealand and Australia.
Wow.
So it means then that the technologies do allow us to tap into market spaces that are beyond what we would have traditionally envisioned. And so we are using that model to develop other academies. So for example, I mentioned the e-learning academy. We're already doing some training with educators and so on across the region and even further afield. We are working on developing 2 additional academies. One entitled an upskilling academy. It's really targeted at the public sector.
Okay.
And training not just here in St. Lucia but across the region, possibly even further afield, on all of the critical new dimensions of managing public policy. Because as you could see with COVID and other areas, how your government manages has a huge impact on daily life. So how you manage in the sphere of public health, or how do you manage your economy, and how do you manage innovation and transformation in your economy. These are all critical tools that you have to learn, and because countries and governments all around the region are innovating, and the question is, where are you in the pecking order? Where are you in the scheme of things? Are you learning the new ways of organizing and deploying your resources? If you aren't, you're being left behind. And so the Upskilling Academy is something that we are very keenly hoping to implement soon. Same for an academy for the digital and creative area. As you could see, the growth of the digital economy has just exploded. The largest companies and the most profitable companies on the planet are all digital, and in fact tap into the creative. So TikTok, for example, up to about 2 months ago, it was valued at $140 billion. It's almost twice the size of YouTube, and I could go on. I mean, it's valued more than the largest, the 7 largest airline companies combined. And what do they sell? creative content on a digital platform. And most of it user generated. So, yeah. So there's a whole new global economy, and that's something that we'll be also offering as going forward, hopefully from September, October.
Okay, so you've spoken about giving us some insight on the bachelor programs, the academies that you're lining up, even working with the public service, not only here in St. Lucia, but the region. Talk to us about what Sir Arthur Lewis Community College has to offer for mature students, for persons who right now feel displaced due to the pandemic. They've had to start all over again. Some perhaps did not have any formal schooling, thinking about going to school to get skilled, get qualified.
Okay, so there are two dimensions to our upskilling academy. One that's really targeted at the public sector, and one we've been having a discussion with the Chamber of Commerce about just what you've described, which is how do we help ordinary citizens learn new skills, new marketable skills that can advance their interests. So we are organizing, and in fact we already have some of this on offer through our lifelong learning and TVET sector. So we've been training people in things like tiling, but at the college we've been also doing a range of training in the culinary area, in automotive engineering, and the list goes on. I mean, 75% of what we offer at the college is already in the vein of technological or technical areas, which have strong job prospects, including in digital animation, digital, what we call digital humanities. So this is something that we are packaging to make it increasingly accessible to a wider target market, so that you don't have to sign up to do a whole degree. You can actually pick and choose what it is you want to learn, because we have it on offer digitally by and large. But what we want to do for those people who are probably displaced, particularly in the tourism sector and some of the retail and other sectors, is to curate a process whereby we offer them certificates in a very packaged way. So we have in mind training, for example, for the blue economy. So what skills do you need to have for the blue economy? And so we start with an understanding of what the marketplace requires, and then we build out those skills in 4 to 5 very well packaged training components. And so you get a certificate. In fact, you would get what we call a digital certificate, and in effect it would be a nano degree. Now that nano degree is transferable, so that you can then use that as a basis to come back to the college if you want to now go on to do your associate degree or your bachelor's degree. So you get, it does give you wings, if you want to put it that way, so that you can tap into further learning. But also with the digital certificate, you can use it on your LinkedIn page, you could have it on your Facebook page, you could send it to your potential employers digitally. So it's certified and it's verified through an external agency. So it's not just something that we are putting out, it's actually something that is vetted by an external institution to verify that this person has been awarded, and the degree is, or the certificate is meeting up to all our academic requirements.
Okay, wonderful. We're talking to Dr. Nurse, Principal of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Do stay with us. When we come back, we talk more on the work that's happening at that institution. Going good so far.
We at war with a virus, ready to harm us. Panic is not disease. Better yet, use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are a no.
Advice give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. All the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No. Think about the children. Think about the children. How will we say that chemicals and GMOs are not the solution? Use organic and join
Excessive agrochemical use, additives, and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy, and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program, UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Thank you so much for staying with us. This is the Morning Update live on NTN. We're continuing with our interview with the president of the South Louis Community College, Dr. Nurse. Dr. Nurse, talk to us about how the institution has been faring. I'm talking balance sheets in the past fiscal year.
Oh, we have actually done fairly well, in fact, very well. This year we had a bump in our enrollment by about 15%. And to be fair, you know, the enrollment had been dropping since 2015. And so 2019 is on record as our worst year. But we've been able to bump that back up by 15%. And we expect with the introduction of the new bachelor's degrees, we will have an additional influx of new students. So people who have graduated in the past or who are currently completing their associate degree, and people from even outside of the St. Lucia. Because some of what we are offering is not accessible in some of the other jurisdictions, in the OECS and further afield. So yes, we've had a bump in our enrollment. We have actually had a bigger surplus this year than any other year.
Wow.
So, so in spite of COVID, I think we have done pretty well. It did force us to accelerate our process of transformation, going digital, of course. So it has saved us a bit on the expense side, but it's also meant that we are now able to expand into new areas of services, providing our services to a wider clientele across the region and across the world. And that's only going to accelerate as we proceed. And so, in many respects, we have pivoted to a new business model.
Okay.
And you know, the college had been largely premised on targeting a school leaver population, but not going after lifelong learners in any significant way. We are doing that now. It had been purely focused on St. Lucia and St. Lucia students, and we are changing that very rapidly to target students in other jurisdictions, particularly our next door neighbor, Martinique and Guadeloupe. We have a project with the French, through the French embassy, that is going to help us accelerate that process. So English as a second language, but also collaborating in key areas of agriculture and other areas of technology. We are the college, we are setting up an innovation hub, which is going to have 4 labs. We are just concluding the discussions with the World Bank through their Korea Fund. We've been able to, and we've been selected to host the virtual reality lab that will service the whole of the OECS. Now that's very exciting, and so we're currently determining, you know, what area of training are we going to run through the virtual reality lab. That is very, very exciting. But we're also working with other institutions to set up an environmental lab. We've already received most of that equipment thanks to the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund and the St. Lucia National Conservation Fund. So we are grateful for that. Plus we will be collaborating with CAFA, which is our next door neighbor. In fact, they are right in our compound, in the same building. So the innovation lab that focuses on environmental areas is going to be collaborating with CAFA. We're setting up a media tech lab to do app development, robotics, and so on. That's coming along very nicely. And then a food tech lab. And we're going to be doing some collaborations with institutions here in St. Lucia to boost the agro-industrial area, which is, I think for St. Lucia, an area of huge capabilities and potential. So last night I was watching television and I saw there's a young woman producing all of these vegan ice creams. Yeah. I'm lactose intolerant, so I was very interested. I haven't had ice cream for years now. But the work that St. Lucia does on things like cassava, the cassava bread, or the sea moss, and the list goes on. St. Lucia has a number of products which I think are world beaters and can be exported with the right upgrade in the technology, in the packaging, getting these phytosanitary measures sorted out, and all those sorts of things. And that's the role of a university. The role of a university is to help catapult some of these nascent capabilities into the outer stratosphere.
I like it. And let's talk about the administration, the faculty, the staff. What is their resolve right now? The incoming principal from another aisle, changes, sweeping changes. Talk to me.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes they describe me as the COVID principal because not much sooner after I arrived, we were steeped into the COVID context. But the staff has responded well because we were all forced to upgrade our skills, our capabilities. Fast track our process of learning how to teach online. We also had to train our students how to learn online. So that's been the sweeping change. But it's also that we have radically shifted our curriculum. So what used to be just agriculture is now called agri-entrepreneurship and climate smart agriculture. What used to be just called our health program is now called health, wellness, and human performance. And what used to be just called the arts and general studies is now called digital humanities and creative industries. So you could see that what we've done is to tap into the new wave in the global economy. And what we've done internally is restructure. So there's no more DTEMs and there's no more DAGs, right? What we have is we have a program on tourism and sustainable development. We have a program unit on digital humanities. Yes. One on agri-entrepreneurship, one on engineering and the circular economy. And so very discrete areas, and what we're doing is building out the capabilities. So we have flattened the organizational chart, and we've given greater responsibility and autonomy to the program heads. So whereas we used to have 5 deans, we now have 10 program heads and deans. And the role of the deans, now the more senior people, are to service the program heads, to facilitate their growth, and so on. So what we've done also is to flip the traditional organizational chart away from a hierarchical model into a service delivery model. And that way, everyone wins because it's now about empowering the students, it's about empowering the staff, and creating new synergies and capabilities.
Wonderful. Our time is running out, but before we leave, we must talk about an upcoming activity of the South Louis Community College, Unthink, a Thought Festival on Globalization and Sustainable Development. Tell us about that virtual event.
Well, Unthink is designed to curate and to celebrate the work of Sir Arthur Lewis. It's the 30th anniversary of his passing on June 15th. And we felt it was really important to pull together a stellar cast of academics, intellectuals, thought leaders, business people from around the world. So it's a one-day event, and we're calling it a thought festival because the objective is not to be, this is not a webinar. This is not a Zoom session. We're running it in studio at HTS.
Nice.
And we are making it very accessible to anyone and everyone from all parts of the world. In fact, some of our presenters are coming from as far away as South Korea, Estonia, Senegal, and the list goes on. So we're having to constantly manage all of the time zone difference in terms of the programming. So I think we've sorted that out now. And we are focusing on 4 key areas, which are really critical questions that we have to deal with or grapple with, which was captured in the work of Lewis. So the first is Caribbean Futures. That's the first panel after the introduction, and the introduction is being presented by the Dr. Leon, who is the new Caribbean Development Bank president, who happens to be St. Lucian as well.
He is.
Right? So he's going to kick off the Thought Festival. Then we have the first panel, which focuses on the Caribbean futures, followed by a panel on climate action, then a panel on the 4th Industrial Revolution, and then we close off looking at the future for the creative industries and the digital economy. So it's going to be very exciting. The last time we hosted an e-symposium right here in this studio, we got over 12,000 people on YouTube and Facebook, not including the population that saw it live on television. Or listened to it live on radio here in St. Lucia. So we think we topped over 20,000 people on that day. It was a bit of a surprise for us, a pleasant surprise. So we probably think we had the biggest virtual event, or one of the biggest virtual events in St. Lucia, if not in the OECS, in 2019.
On GIS?
On GIS,
hey,
to be more precise.
Well, we've come to the end of this morning's program. Final words before we part?
Oh no, it's always a pleasure to be here at NTN. I think that the key message we want to get across is this, is that St. Lucia and the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College is in a position to punch above its weight. What we need to do is harness our resources and really not be distracted by COVID or any of the other things. Let us utilize these, what can be defined as a crisis, as an opportunity. So as the college pivots to become a university, we think that we can play a vital role in the process of economic renewal and diversification of the St. Lucian economy, the wider OECS, the wider Caribbean, and so on.
Wonderful. Dr. Nurse, thank you so very much for your time. It's been a pleasure this morning speaking to you.
It's been my pleasure as well.
Thank you. Dr. Nurse, their principal of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, speaking to us about the new offerings of the college, the work it has been doing to switch things up, to change its business model, essentially.
Correct.
And also speaking on the Unthink, what has been dubbed a thought festival, dubbed Unthink on Globalization and Sustainable Development, coming up on the 15th of June, the 13th anniversary of the passing of Sir Arthur Lewis. So we do encourage you to get in on that action. There's so much in store on the part of the community college. So go onto their Facebook platform, their website, to get more information on how you can participate in this virtual event. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. I did say that we go over the protocols, but we encourage you to watch previous broadcasts to get some insight as to how persons who are vaccinated are getting some concession in terms of the COVID-19 protocols right now. And for those who have not vaccinated as yet against COVID-19, some incentive to get the jab. So do stay tuned to NTN for more programming as we go into the rest of the day. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. Stay with us, keep safe, and adhere to the protocols. Cheers. Thank you.